Hello and welcome. And we're here again at Holistic Investments. And I'm delighted to be with Scott Stuart today, the founder of Kava. Hi,
Thank
Stuart.
you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You know, it's I've received multiple, I would say, requests to do a special interview with you specifically, because a lot of my friends, they supported early Kava and they're staking, they're earning some yield with you. So I was curious to talk and understand better, of your personal journey and generally what is Kava. But we tend to be also careful in what we deliver here, because the yield, high yield decentralized dividends are amazing, but at the same time, we have to throw out risk disclosures to begin with. So this content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or any other advice. So now that we're off the hook, so tell us, Scott, probably what led you to basically crypto rabbit hole, and how did you start Kava?
Yeah, well, so kind of my first introduction to crypto, actually, like a lot of people in the space, I was involved with digital assets by a different name in internet poker. So when I was young, I was a professional internet poker player. Did that for a number of years in my late teens, early 20s. And it was when the US actually cut off banking relations with a number of those poker sites that a lot of people had to start using something like Bitcoin as a means to deposit and withdraw. So that was kind of that was back when Bitcoin was $50. I didn't buy that much of it. So right, rats. I went into ad tech after that. And then it was around 2016, 17. Kind of taking a look at crypto again. And, with the advent of Ethereum, there's just all of these applications that could be made. And so that got really exciting. I had spent a lot of time in software. I love that crypto is basically software all the way down. And so we just, dug into it. And kind of three and a half years later, we're at where we are now.
Amazing. So let's talk about Kava. So how old is Kava already? When was the year when it was created, and who were? I know that you have other co-founders.
Yeah, we didn't start with Kava. So there's myself. There's actually a Scottish gentleman named Rory, and Brian Kerr, who's the CEO. So we're kind of three that started this. And it didn't start in its current incarnation, and I think that's should be typical of any startup in a new and evolving space. In 2017, 18, we were actually working really closely with Ripple. So Ripple was an early investor in some Ripple, Stefan Thomas and a number of other guys had put money into us for building this interledger. So this is this kind of quite technical way to do seamless payments between different crypto assets, and then merging that, with other digital forms of money like PayPal. So yeah, we did that for a while, and we had some success bringing a product to market, but it was kind of what I've learned with startups is the whole boiling the ocean thing is actually pretty tough. And so we kind of were staring down 12, 18 months of that. And just it's an interesting technology, but not the right fit for a small, scrappy startup. So this was kind of post the massive uptrend in late 2017, 2018. It was kind of towards the end of 2018 that we were looking around in crypto and be okay, we're not going to do, Facebook on the blockchain. We're probably not going to do, Airbnb on the blockchain. What is it? And it was really Maker and these few kind of proto DeFi protocols that were you know what, that's usage, right? That looks and feels like usage. There's a fit there, but Maker's only targeted basically at Ethereum assets. Mm-hmm. So we had been working really closely with the Cosmos guys. We had sort of looked around for different base layers, and that was kind of the most advanced one. It's Cosmos SDK, Tendermint thing. Mm-hmm. So let's try that. So let's create a dedicated chain, and we'll build out on that chain a Maker lending facility, but we'll target that specifically at Bitcoin. And so we kind of set out to do that early 2019. And there's like, I think it's like Andreessen, Mark Andreessen has this thing where it's like, you can feel product market fit. And so with the ILP, the interledger thing, we're just like asking, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? We're like, yeah. When you come onto a thing that people want, you have to like shut the money. They're trying to put money in the door and you're like trying to shut it. Like, okay, that's enough money. I got it. So you could really feel like the pull for that. And so, you know, we sort of took in like a little bit of initial investment, and then we built it out. And then we found a good partner, like a great partner in Binance. And so we did like this kind of, you know, the IEO thing with them at the end of 2019. And then we ended up working closely with their Binance chain to be the first chain that we ended up bringing assets, bridging assets onto Kava with.
So let me ask you, I understand that because of the strategic partnership with Cosmos SDK and Binance, because of the Binance chain is on Cosmos as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so I think that is why BNB was the first token to be listed, because there was a little bit of criticism in the community that says like, listen, why didn't they, you know, list the digital gold, the Bitcoin first, right? You know, so is there any particular reason? I know that you introduced it eventually, right? So I'm just curious, what was your thought process there?
Yeah, and my view there is, again, as like a scrappy startup, it's like, what can we do now that will get some traction, and then figure that out. So, you know, I love the Cosmos guys, been working with them for a long time. But for me, you know, spending 4 years to deliver, you know, IBC, it's just too risky. It's too risky for a small startup to like spend, you know, a year doing something, delivering it, and then being like, okay, is anybody going to use it? Right. Yeah. So for us, it was the combination of the distribution channel. So we had Binance saying to its millions of users, hey, you know, come use Kava. And then the ability to just like build that relatively quickly with them.
So maybe like, for someone who doesn't know what is the IBC stands for, what's the purpose? Maybe you can explain a little bit.
Yeah. So that there's this kind of Cosmosian vision that we will create multiple applications and get them to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And it's in contrast to what like Ethereum does. So Ethereum's like, we're just one platform, and you're going to build on our platform. But the problem is we're sharing basically throughput, computational throughput. So it's slow. And then if there's a lot of usage, it's expensive, right? Kind of Cosmos is on the other end of it, where it's like, well, every application is a blockchain. Mm-hmm. And then they talk to each other with this inter-blockchain communication protocol called IBC. And then nowadays you have Polkadot that's like kind of in the middle. It's like we'll have these kind of substrate chains, and they'll all kind of be anchored to this common thing. And so, you know, TBD on what wins in that spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
And there's also Cardano, Chainlink. They're also, I would say, introducing some of the like interesting solutions over there, like, you know, how to make, you know, those promises of composability and interoperability actually like speak to each other, like, because that's what a lot of people are expecting. But I would just, you know, my previous interview with Pen Zhang, so that was, you know, from Tendermint. So that's that's why I was curious to see what's your angle, like, you know, and right now, what is your direction to work with them, or to also like, you know, almost like separate yourself in a way and become more independent?
Yeah. So think about like, you can kind of think about Kava as this like amusement park, right? I mean, for DeFi, it's a DeFi playground, right? Like we take it much more seriously than that, but from the perspective of a user, right, that's trying to get yield or do some financial activity, right? It's like, what are the attractions? And so for us, we built out, you know, we built out that maker lending platform first. We saw a lot of growth in Compound. So Rob and Compound, they're kind of advisors and investors in us, as well as Aave. So the money market piece is this kind of natural next thing to build. And so we built that in the fall. And then coming up will be an AMM. These are the kind of like core building blocks of a platform to be able to do things, move assets around. And so for us, once we have the rides, it's about bringing people in, right? It's like, how do we onboard different users in different types of assets? So we started with Binance and bringing assets over there. We have, you know, over 250 million came in through them. IBC, or this inter-blockchain communication, is just another kind of bridge or way to onboard assets onto Kava. Mm-hmm. And so that would be like, and the nice thing with that is one integration with that gets us Atom, it gets us Thorchain, it gets us Band, Terra, and the other kind of Cosmos SDK based chains that have decided to include the IBC module. So, we'll certainly, as one part of a general strategy of onboarding users, we're definitely going to onboard users through that.
Got it. By the way, there's a quick one, like more speculative question. Do you think that Binance is somehow behind the Thorchain?
What do you mean behind Thorchain?
Well, they say that, like now we still don't know the exact founders, like of the Thorchain.
Oh.
So there is a speculation that it's like CZ is one of their team, like the core team are also, that's their passage to DeFi.
Yeah, right. Well, so, and, especially with these Anon teams. So like, actually I would, if we're sleuthing, I would actually look closer at like PancakeSwap. Mm-hmm. Anytime you have Anon founders built on their thing, it's kind of like, okay, like, all right. Yeah. Thorchain, maybe not as much. So I talked to those guys back kind of before. They're really popular now, and that's great.
Yeah.
There's a couple Australian guys. So they may be like heavily backed, but I don't know that they're like exactly like Binance agents.
Got it. Yeah, I was just curious. I think people love those rumors, so I'm curious to hear people like others, colleagues' opinion on this. So let's dive deeper into your project, and then into Kava and the ecosystem. So I know that you're like, from what I've read and from what I know, that you're highly secure, which is like really important in our industry to avoid all those rug plugs and all the crazy things like hacks. So you've been audited. So can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, totally. So just kind of generally in terms of security. So like there's, especially when you're dealing with a financial ecosystem, security takes multiple forms, right? I mean, so for instance, MakerDAO as such has never been hacked. But if we recall all the way back to March of last year, right, they had a liquidity problem where all of the assets crashed in price and there was not enough DAI available in time to come in to buy up those assets. So while that's not a sort of technical hack as such, I would still put that in the category of unsafe, right? Or something that is unsafe to users. And it might be worth just kind of clarifying what's the reason that safety is important, right? And our view on this is, we have the luxury of operating in a relatively unregulated framework. And our view is that if you can build a product and brand around user safety and you can build up that trust, those will tend to be the products that win in the long run. So that's where our focus is. And so kind of in terms of the categories of safety, with sort of technical safety, one of the reasons that we chose the Cosmos SDK is this kind of this space to invade. The sort of attack surface is much, much lower than on Ethereum. Ethereum is actually really hard. Solidity is actually a very hard, it's a very hard, the EVM is a very hard thing to build financial software on because there's all of these different ways that you can get in that. Conversely, for the Cosmos SDK, you can really specify, given this particular set of code, only these things can happen. And only things can happen here, and I'll have them talk to each other. So I would argue that foundationally, it's a more secure thing to build on. Of course, on top of that, the Tendermint, or sort of All in Bits team, had done extensive audits of the base layer. So Tendermint itself is formally verified. The vanilla SDK that you kind of get with it is very heavily audited. And then anything that we build, basically any piece of sort of small package or unit of code that we deliver, we then just also have it verified and audited, and then kind of any interactions that it has therein. Right? So
if I'm asking you more like direct questions, who audited you, and whether we can see the actual audit results publicly?
Yeah, so we just did a tweet about it. So you can go to Certic. So Certic's probably like the one that we found that has the most experience with the Cosmos SDK. And if you go to like certic.org/Kava, and you'll see we have a page with multiple audits. We actually purchased like one of their insurance, policies, like Certic Shield, so you kind of go there and like explore all of the auditing. I think it's actually a nice product, but all of the auditing that they've done with us. And we've relied pretty heavily on that for our application specific audits.
Perfect. So is there, maybe for someone who, for in a layman terms, is there like a kind of a score that the cert is giving you? What's the process of like auditing, and how does one, once he goes to the certix.com, /Kava, like to understand like, whether they're like, their audit results and their like overview is positive? What one should be looking at?
Yeah, I was just going to the website, but basically, I think what Certic does is, it's basically a stamp, and then like this meets the bar, and then qualitative like references around that. So I don't think they give a score as such, but they do give sort of qualitative feedback. And I think like actually on the first couple, the qualitative feedback was like, this is some of the best code base that we've ever reviewed. I mean, you can go like check that, you can like fact check that. And, not to like kind of toot our horn, but I think that when you actually compare Kava, the chain, to Atom, our code base is just as big as, if not bigger, than the Cosmos Hub. We've put we've put extensive amount of work into that, and I think our team is very solid. They've been doing this for a while, and we've kind of. Yeah,
that's the reason why I asked, because I've seen that there is no score, because I know and you're still like one of the top lists, like in terms of the certified and verified projects. That's why I'm just curious. Maybe they can just added this nuance there.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, if it's like a gradient or something, right? And there's like 9.8. Oh, very secure.
Yeah, so now that's amazing that you care about like the security and the fact that there's a third-party audit happening. So I think that is very important. Now, not to go deeper into technical aspects, as I think like some of my audience are there, like they're more interested on the high-level analysis of your project. So let's talk about like the how many tokens are right now in Kava. Let's talk about your roadmap. How many other integrations are you looking to have, and what does it even mean when you are actually entering like your website with that you can have 60% yield as of this recording. It is February 18th 2021. So let's explain a little bit what does it mean.
Yeah. So right now today, and so you can go to like kava.io/stats, and it'll show. So the native assets, kind of like akin to Ethereum and ERC20s. The native assets on Kava right now are Kava, which is the staking token. There's Hard, which is the governance token of Hard Protocol, which is a money market similar to Compounder Ethereum. That's Compounder Aave, and then there's USDX, which is the crypto stablecoin similar to DAI, that's derived from the Kava CDPs. Those are kind of the native assets right now. I think in total that's something like, it moves around very quickly, but let's say like 800 million, 900 million, something like that, dollar value. And then in terms of onboarded assets, currently, as of like today, next week this won't be the case, but today all of the assets onboarded onto Kava are through the Binance chain still. And so that's Bitcoin, BNB, BUSD, which is kind of, Binance's USD, XRP, and those are the four. Yeah. So in total there's 7 on Kava.
So, I think it will be like pretty traditional question to you. So why not other like, assets like Ethereum, Cardano, like Polkadot, and et cetera, et cetera?
Totally. Yeah. So yes, they will. This is kind of like a progressive thing. And so, what I can disclose kind of publicly is, because they've already announced it. So Huobi is going to have a form of Bitcoin, HBTC, that's going to be directly integrated into Kava. And then there's a number of other ones that I'm actually kind of excited about in the pipeline. So our goal is to get those large assets in. Absolutely. It's really just a matter of practicality, right? It's having one Binance integration got us all of those assets and that direct distribution channel to Binance users. We're going to do the same with Huobi because we kind of have that playbook now built up with Binance, and we're going to do it with another one pretty soon. And then it's on to an Ethereum bridge. So we have, maybe I can share the screen later or whatever, but we have a roadmap, visualization that kind of shows what we're going to be doing throughout this year. And so Kava, like you might have seen that Cosmos just did this Stargate launch, right? Like Stargate launch. When was the last Cosmos mainnet upgrade? Like, I can't quite remember. So one of the things that we've learned is we want to do sort of fixed time variable scope releases. So our goal for this year is to have 4-month release cycles. And so this current release cycle that's ending March 4th, we'll do Kava 5 launch. That's delivering all the finishing touches on the hard protocol. And is it all right if I just show a visualization?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is us in time, this little guy here. So the Kava 5 gets us the hard protocol version 2. So this is sort of supply, borrow, dynamic interest rates. That's out and ready in a test net. Will be on mainnet early March. We're currently in the process of evaluating any central issuer. So USDT, USDC, WBTC, I talked about HUSDC and a couple others, kind of getting those onto the platform right away, just getting assets and users onto the platform. And then, we did a pretty big overhaul in terms of performance and scalability improvements because we kind of in Kava 4, I wouldn't say we rushed stuff out, but we got stuff out, and then people were using it heavily, and we're like, oh, actually, this is some gigantic load on this system, and so there's like a number of optimizations that we ended up having to do like around that. So that's all done. That's looking good. Kind of paves the way for more applications. And so in Kava 6, which is going to be in June, this is the autonomous market maker. It's kind of like a really important primitive to have to be able to move coins that people are already using to generate yield, to be able to swap them and optimize what they're doing. And then we'll be creating the Seifu fund. So you might have heard of the Binance Seifu fund. So we're going to be doing that as well. So about 10% of the network, about 100 million, 110 million Kava coins. We'll have about 10 million coins that'll sit in a reserve to cover any like negative activities that happen. And that is just another form of safety. Now I say this is subject to a Kava vote by the community. I think that the Kava community is behind this, but it still needs to be, voted in order to do that. But I'm pretty excited about things like the Seifu fund getting going. So that brings us kind of to the end of June, and then we will be creating a robo advisor service to wrap around this, such as Yearn. And then this is kind of where we're getting into that Ethereum bridge and starting to direct flows to and from Ethereum to Kava. And actually, we're getting a lot of requests from, as you might expect, Binance Smart Chain, which is like kind of Ethereum, right? To do the same there. We'll see.
Impressive. I think it's a very ambitious roadmap for this year. So
well, and so the other thing, and this is kind of we're growing. So if anybody wants to work for a company that has an ambitious roadmap, Kava Labs is actively growing. We're probably going to increase by the end of the year, looking at something like double the amount of people.
Okay, so who are you hiring? Let's make it as an advertising.
Yeah, let's plug it. So I could go to the greenhouse, but I'll say it. So the main folks that we're working on, the main things we're looking at right now are front end developers. So building out just a better user experience. So front end developers, protocol developers, people who have experience in Go, because that's what the Cosmos SDK is built on. So protocol developers, and honestly, we're light, probably lighter than we should be on marketing and biz dev. So if you guys are out there and you're a talented crypto marketer or biz dev, and you want to work for a project that's like slightly more nerdy than it should be, and you want to help bring them more out into the community, hit us up. We'd be glad to have you.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely share links to all the all your onboarding like pages if you have the career page.
Yeah, we have JDs open. Yeah, we have a career page. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's a very exciting time, and I think if anything, we should help to like talented people to promote the opportunities, because there's a disconnect, like of as you mentioned, like people who really want to work with projects like yours, and sometimes they just cannot find the opportunities quickly. So I'm excited about it. All right, so let's now probably, can you show some other, like, I mean, if you will, like, some other practical aspects, like, so so the first time user of Kava, like, listening to this, like excited. So now what would be the first step to participate in the ecosystem, to buy Kava, to buy hard, like, like when you're staking it, let's also unwind like the conversation about when what was quite, I would say, let's put it this way, needs a little bit more explanation. When you're saying 60% APY on Bitcoin, my first reaction, well, I give you all my Bitcoin.
Yep. So I'll share my screen again, just we'll keep it visual.
Sure.
Well, so the first thing to do is to go to kava.io. That's the main landing page. Right. And so you can see there we have this like kind of easy, thing for folks to look at. And it just shows you for the different assets, roughly what's supplied, how much USDX has been borrowed from that, and then the APY or the yield. I think we talked about this before. We probably put like a little asterisk here. So just to be very clear about how Kava specifically works, is this yield is coming from Kava tokens. So it's similar to Compound in that you get a pro rata distribution based on how much you've contributed to the network. You get these payouts, and so these distributions are done per block. So the claim for the distribution is done per block, and then, as I'll show later, you can go in, and as you build up, you accrue a balance, you can go and claim it. And so you have an option then to choose between the duration of lock time that you want for the reward. So Compound just defaults to liquid. You just get it right away. For Kava, right now, we have two options. There's a 1 month option and there's a 12-month option. And so the 12-month option has a significant bonus to it.
Just to clarify, when you're talking about 12-month option, that means you basically lock your Bitcoin, whatever it may be, one or a fraction of it, for 12 months, and you cannot, get it out earlier, or you can lose, the potential APY, right?
Good. Yeah. So to clarify, actually, your assets, your crypto is always liquid. So any block, on a 6-second basis, you can deposit or withdraw or do whatever you want. So we don't impose any locking there. The locking here is purely on the Kava rewards. So you can get your Kava rewards in a month's time after you click the claim button, or you could get it in 12 months' time when you click the claim button. And obviously, if you're locking up your tokens, your rewards for longer, you get compensated with more. And so, for your users, to be clear, these APY calculations are for the 12-month lockup.
Got it. And they're not all in Bitcoin. They're like, those are like 60%. That's, like also in Kava, right?
You'll receive this in Kava. Yeah. So this is snapshotting basically like the Bitcoin price of Kava. But yes, you will receive at the end of the day Kava, just like with kind of Compound. You receive comp tokens, not DAI.
But your portion of Bitcoin stays as almost like a principal untouched. So it's still there. You can always like take it out.
Correct, and you can take it out at any time. We don't impose any lockups or restrictions there. And yeah, so similarly with hard protocol, it's about the same. So with V2 now, borrow will be available. But it's the same thing. You supply assets, here you're earning hard tokens, and then this hard token distribution will be distributed between supply and borrow when borrow becomes available March 4th on mainnet.
So let's stop here for a second, because there was a question like, basically what's the main difference between like USDX and hard, and like, why do people like, why do you need so many like different types of stable coins, so let's explain a little bit here.
Yeah, so just to really draw the analogy to ETH, Kava as a lending facility is basically like Maker, And the Kava token is this governance and lender of last resort, like NKR. USDX is the stable coin that's drawn from collateralized positions on the Kava lending platform, similar to DAI. So you can think of USDX, DAI, they're equivalent. And then for the hard protocol, like Compound or Aave, hard token is the governance token of that protocol. And those are basically the current characters.
And when we say it's a governance protocol, so like do users, the holders of hard, they have also the voting power, like the ability to actually govern and take decisions in the development of the project?
Yep. Yeah. So and that'll be true for any application that we build. The governance token is meant to be a way for the community to make decisions around what's done here and not us. Hard is a little.
Would you be able to show how it's done?
Yeah. So I'll show it for Kava because that's kind of what's like built out right now. So Mintscan is kind of like Cosmos's version of Etherscan.
Etherscan, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of this Mintscan. So you can they don't have all of them. They kind of have the top ones. So there's like Cosmos. Okay, fine, Cosmos. But then Kava, number 2. So you can go to Kava. And so right now there are proposals that are active. So one that just passed was adding HBTC to the list of allowed CDP collaterals. So this is us voting on bringing HBTC into the Kava lending platform. So that just passed, and that'll be shown in here in the front end relatively shortly.
And for someone who's not that familiar with the CDP concept, maybe you can explain a little bit.
Yeah. So just like with Maker, so how that works, how this lending platform works, is it's honestly kind of so you put Bitcoin in, and I'll show kind of how to do this in a little bit. But you deposit Bitcoin, you hold it there, and then you can draw USDX off of that balance. And you can take that USDX and supply it to hard to earn yields, or trade it on an exchange for some other token to gain exposure to that token.
So Bitcoin is in this analogy is a collateral, right? And USDX is more like the derivative that you can earn yield on top of it.
Yeah, they call it collateralized debt position. So like BTC is the C, is the collateral, and the USDX is the debt position drawn on that collateral.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So voting. So there's 2 votes that are kind of active right now. So in our system, in the Kava system, voting is a 1-week process. In Atom, it's 2 weeks. We did that because actually Kava moves pretty quickly, and 2 weeks is a long time in blockchain, so it's 1 week. So this one here is to increase the USDX debt limit. So we kind of, as a safety precaution, we say only so much USDX can be drawn. We've hit that. So now we're saying, all right, here's a proposal to increase that debt limit to 245 million USDX divided across these different assets. And how this works is as soon as this is voted in, it's enacted on chain. So we don't have to program anything. The software is already programmed that when this takes effect, that the new asset limit will increase. And then there's another one here for increasing like the minimum staking reward. So right now staking inflation is 4.75. We're going to bump that up a little bit.
So let me ask you then to play the devil's advocate role, like in here, like, so I see that like, in most of your decisions in the proposals, like, there's consensus of 100% people, like 99%, there's not a lot of controversial topics, right? So maybe you can show some of them that were rejected. Okay.
Yeah, so there's rejected.
Okay. So let's talk about why and how many people like participated in this, and because there's another like thought process. I'm sure you've heard this that in the community that because of the early stages of the project, still like the founding team and the early seeders, they have a like kind of a bigger voting power, and it's really hard like for the like smaller holders in the community to actually so that their voice is going to be like even heard. So let's talk about the rejected cases and why.
Yeah. So this was USDX incentives for BUSD, right? And then I think let's see, what were some other ones? Activate USDX incentives, and then a proposal. Yeah. So this is a good example. So there for the upgrade for Kava 3. So right, I get it. So basically, what we do, a process that we do once the software is released, is there's like a 2 to 3 week review time, right? Where the goal of this is, so we put out a proposal and say, hey, we intend to upgrade with this version of the software. This is what we're going to upgrade with. And it's kind of on the community to figure out and review, is there something wrong with this? In the case of Kava 3, there was something wrong with it. And a community member, actually somebody from the B&B community, a developer, brought it up and said, hey, I noticed this thing, right? And you're like, okay, darn, right? We're not going to be able to launch with this version of the software. So we were able to put out an announcement to the community saying, hey, there's, this bug here. And then it went to be rejected, right? So this goes into sort of what I was talking about with one of the safety precautions that differentiates Kava from Ethereum, and we're kind of getting into the weeds. Any piece of software that is to be deployed onto Kava has the opportunity for the community to take a look at it and say, hey, I found something that I don't like here. This is in contrast to the design paradigm of Ethereum, where you can just release anything you want. And it's kind of up to the user to determine if it's safe or not. And so kind of the analogy that we want to draw there is this sort of like Apple Store versus Android Store, right? Where it is not Kava Labs, but the Kava community's responsibility, and they gain value by not having hacks, basically approving the applications and updates to the system, in contrast to something like Android, where, it's kind of the Wild West and you can put up anything you want.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So how many in this rejected, if you can click on one of the cases just to see, it should be like, again, more than 51%, I guess, right? So they have.
Yeah. So how it works so in this case, it was 82.
82. Okay.
But still 18% was like, let's do it. I don't care. So how it currently works, we're sort of borrowing from what Cosmos does, but how it currently works is quorum is 40% of all bonded tokens. So if you can't get 40% of people to show up to the polls,
there's no quorum.
There's no vote, right?
Got it. So, and how would you vote? Is there an open case so you can show, if somebody wants to vote,
Yes, you can sign in through Mintscan. Honestly, I haven't signed up with Mintscan, so that takes some process. But you can either do it Mintscan. So, and by the way, Mintscan is not us. This is like a completely separate third-party thing.
Yeah.
I would plug them. They have a wonderful Cosmos Station mobile app that interacts with all of our products. And you can vote through them. They're actually kind of the go-to for voting.
And you have to have at least some Kava tokens to provide, so that your vote will be counted.
Correct, and your vote is counted to the extent that you have Kava tokens. Kava tokens is kind of the vote. That's the weight of the vote.
Perfect, got it. So let's talk about how many users do you already have in your community, and what's the development process there?
Yeah. So on chain, so in terms of on-chain metrics, so we work with Flipside Crypto. I don't know if you guys have heard of those guys, but they kind of provide visualization tools. So I think on-chain total accounts right now, I haven't checked recently, but it's over 250,000. In terms of active deposits to hard, it's over 10,000 deposits. And on the loans on Kava, it's around somewhere around 5,000. So compare that to Ethereum. I think the last time I checked, active deposits for Compound is in the 100 or so thousand, 200,000. So we're still 10%, we're still 10%, 5% of them. So I think we have a ways to go, but there's decent traction there. In terms of assets moved, that Binance Bridge alone has moved a one-way flow of 200 million. I think two-way flow, we're probably at something like 500 million. So, that's that's not bad. It's still not ETH numbers, but for, a project that's trying to onboard new assets, it's not too bad. And then just in terms of like overall stats, we in terms of community, we focus our community in Telegram and Twitter. And so the Kava community has about 10,000 or so people, and it's pretty active. The hard community has less than 10,000, but it's like high single thousands. And then, the Twitter accounts maybe like 60,000 and 20,000 or something.
Yeah, and we're going to share all the links, obviously, to the community if you want to participate and add your 2 satoshis to the Kava community and or ask any questions, right? I'm sure you will be welcomed. So maybe last thing, not to forget, if you can quickly show, if I were to go and to buy Kava tokens and just to stake it, maybe showcase it once, so for the person, to understand how does it work practically.
Yeah, so I'd go to there's 2 ways that I would recommend doing it. Mm-hmm. Not to plug Binance, but I would go to Binance. So Binance basically has, in the Kava market. So Binance does this thing that I actually like a lot called soft staking. So when you take Kava tokens and you put it onto, and here actually I'll go back to Mintscan. We'll go to the validators list. So Binance is the biggest validator right now. Mm-hmm. So what Binance
what's the threshold to become a validator, by the way, remind us?
Just you have to be in the top 100. So I think right now, I think you could show up with, you just have to be in the top 100. And there's a setup cost to being a validator, but certainly it's we have guides to doing it. We encourage people to do it.
Yeah, but do you remember roughly the number that is required to in dollar value?
I think it's literally, we're talking like 100 Kava. It's not too bad.
Okay,
right? It could be less.
Still accessible.
Totally accessible. Yeah, right. So Binance is a great option in my opinion because of this soft staking mechanism that they do. So you buy Kava wherever, and then you just deposit it on Binance if you're comfortable depositing Kava on Binance. And so what they do is they say, let's say our validator is staking 10 million Kava. We take those Kava rewards and we just distribute it pro rata to users on Binance. So that's I'd say that's the easiest way to do it. That's easy mode. Hard mode is run your own validator, right? And your own full node and put your Kava on there. I think a nice in between is using just a solution like Trust Wallet. So Trust Wallet fully supports Kava and hard. And the benefit of using something like Trust Wallet is, you retain access to the keys, but also what we've done with hard is we're basically giving dividends to Kava holders for the hard tokens. The idea there is that Kava is really, as the POS staking coin, is providing security to the other applications that are being built on top of Kava. So some percentage annually of the inflation of those tokens go to Kava stakers. Right now it's about 20%. And so if you stake your Kava on something like Trust Wallet, you get the hard tokens. And when we create the AMM, you'll get the AMM tokens. On Binance, you just get, right now at least, you just get Kava.
So it's a version almost like airdrop, that's what you're providing.
And it's continuous though, right? And it's, the way that I would think about it is it's a premium for providing security for these other assets. So it's not a one-time thing, it's over time. So as long as you're staking, you get this.
You're providing liquidity in Kava and you get additional hard, as a reward, right?
Yep, and so it's in our view, it's basically the natural extension of any POS network. So you're trading liquidity in Kava for Kava tokens with just vanilla POS staking, right? Adam does that, eventually ETH will do that. We're just extending that to hard tokens in the money market. It's kind of like a sort of shared security model, if you will, that they're benefiting off of the illiquidity of that Kava being staked for security. So they give a small amount of hard tokens to stakers for that service.
Got it. I think that's very interesting. So let me ask you, if you are, I don't think it applies to Bitcoin or any other non, non-native tokens. There is no like additional airdrop on top of that, right?
We thought about it. That's a little hard. This is kind of like the easy, natural way to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, for applications built on top of the Kava platform.
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, that would be probably a killer like incentive in the beginning, but probably hard to maintain for long term, I suppose.
Yeah, the current carrot for us is the products, right? It's that 60%, yield on BTC. We're just using that right now to try and drive onboarding.
Do you support any other like, I suppose Trezor, Ledger, like, offline wallets? Right?
Yeah, so the two major wallets to interact with the software, if you're an individual user, is a Ledger. So if you have high balances and you just want security, you can use Ledger. And then the Kava Labs owned apps that I'll show, those support Trust Wallet using a wallet connection, like Wallet Connect connection. And then there are other third-party applications though that are made. As I mentioned, Cosmos Station is a wonderful third-party mobile and web experience to use Kava products.
Someone also wrote me a question. It's in my list. Like, so I suppose, I will not see this in my MetaMask account, right?
So honestly,
yeah,
yes, and I'm sorry, and we're working on it, but but that's the thing is like we're really geared towards you have to go where the users are, and so this actually, Victor, like to his credit, like it was not easy for us to get integrated with Trust Wallet, right? That takes time. There was a lot of Trust Wallet users. Obviously, MetaMask is the biggest.
Yeah. So
they have these like plugin supports, but we're working on it, but it's not going to be out anytime soon. But I would love to let a MetaMask user just plug into Kava.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe let's go to another route, which I will help you to also like see the user provision, like in a user like acquisition, like in a strategy. So Zap or Zerion, those are like platforms that aggregate, like your portfolio, and they help you to see on one clear, like user interface where you at, like where you staking, where you haven't. So, are you connected to them?
To Zapier, you said?
Yeah, let's say
not yet.
Not yet. Also, okay. When do you think it is possible?
I'm not sure with Zapier. I'm pretty sure our BD team's interacting with them, but you think you recommend that's a very good one?
I would think that a lot of people who are like I would say more like into DeFi, like and they they want to interact like not with one or two assets, and they interact with 5, 10 plus. It's just hard. And the MetaMask is also not a solution. Like it's just like you're using it just because it's popular. But I personally use both, like to even understand where I am at. I give you an example, like when 1inch had this airdrop, the claim. The only reason why some people actually knew about it, just because Zerion reminded them that you're like, you're supposed to get this reward. Please go ahead and check out that you're eligible. Otherwise, it's really hard to track. You have to be 24/7, and people have a different life. So
yeah. Well, so kind of and this can tie into one of the ways that we're thinking about onboarding. So there's kind of like two modes, if you will, of Kava. So Kava is meant to be this just open finance protocol that individual users, developers, and enterprises can plug into. And so what we're seeing here, right, and we can maybe walk through it if we have time, is an experience for an end user. So an end user could come to our application, they could connect with Trust Wallet, and they could, do their activities and earn some yield and get loans, etc. And they can do the same with Heart. That's kind of like the end user mode. Trust Wallet so like a couple other ones are Frontier Wallet. Have you seen Frontier? So Frontier is a developer app that has a Kava experience built into it, and Cosmos Station is another developer app that has the Kava experience integrated into it. Is more like what we would say is like that developer segment that we're also trying to grow. The third one that we're like pretty interested in is this kind of enterprise integration. So we built out this Kava API to help enterprises integrate into this protocol. And so the two kind of major ones in the crypto space right now that we've done is Binance. So Binance basically in Binance.com, you can go and earn yield on BNB through Kava. I guess you can also do it on Curve, but you can do it on Kava. It's currently sold out. Oops. But we're trying to grow that. And so the idea is to grow this direct integration with users. Binance is a centralized entity. They have a bunch of users that hold digital assets, and without leaving that experience, they can put their assets into here and earn a yield. BitMax is another one. So we've successfully integrated with BitMax into the hard protocol. And so that's an opportunity to earn yield with your USDX and with your hard tokens. And then just announced is Huobi. So Huobi Global, the first asset that as a Huobi user only living on the exchange is you can put your Bitcoin, somewhat similar as Binance, into a widget in Huobi and then be earning yield on Kava. So that's kind of like an exciting path that we're really trying to venture down for Q1 and Q2 of this year. Is kind of, and it's that similar ethos that we had with the initial Binance integration, is sort of in a single integration, getting that entire distribution channel to onboard users into Kava.
So just to clarify, while we were seeing the screen, the difference between you earning yield directly with Binance and having, let's say, 7.5% APY on Bitcoin and 8.5% on BNB, and then what you're offering essentially is like 63 on BTC and let's say roughly 15.8% on the BNB. So that is substantial difference, just because you're ready to incentivize the early onboarders and help them to grow, to build trust in your ecosystem.
Yeah, so that's a great observation. So the way that you can think of kind of financial products is there's this range of risk reward, right? So and I think that successful products offer that range. They can hit different segments of users. So, and it's kind of similar to staking, but so in the case of Kava, if you want to come into the Kava products, you're kind of on your own, right? You're downloading the apps, you're moving the coins, you're effectively the only one that's liable. I would imagine, they haven't explicitly said it, but I would imagine in the case of Binance, one, you don't manage anything. You just put it in there and forget about it. You earn a guaranteed yield, right? It's not variable. They're giving you a guaranteed yield. And probably if something went wrong, Binance would hold themselves liable and return some amount of the investment to you, right? So you're getting this gradient. And right now, I think honestly in DeFi land, we don't, it's not the Pareto optimal thing hasn't been found yet. So I think it's our duty to be exploring these different options and figuring out what's really connecting with users.
And also the last point, I think, when we're speaking about the risk, it's predominantly impermanent loss, right? So if you consider that, let's say BNB token, although did incredible flip, 3-4x recently.
Yes.
But if you believe for your own research, for your own reasons, that it will not hold this value, and it regardless of you accrue 7.9%, 15%, that if the token loses its value to a certain degree, then obviously the yield you're earning is it's not that significant. So this is your risk, and one of the major risks, that you have to take into account. I just want to throw it out there because, a lot of people are getting excited of high yields, but they also have to see the other side of the coin,
So I think it's that, look, we live this every day, and I'll say that the financial kind of risk of basically, right, of impermanent loss, or just the movement of the price of things is one. I want to underscore that you almost go numb to it, but you see $30 million hacks every day, not every day, but on a monthly basis, right? No project or almost no project tries to go out and say, well, I want my users to get hacked and my reputation to get tarnished. But it happens because it's actually really hard to build these financial products and be doing it at a competitive speed.
Open source,
right?
That's
right. in open source. It's like literally hard mode for software development. It's like the hardest mode. And so, yeah. And so that's why, that's one of the reasons why, we want to do the Seifu Fund, right? Is like, knock on wood, Kava's never been hacked. We don't intend to be hacked, but we want to just build up extra security just in case something happens, we can make our users whole. And while Binance gets like a lot of, bad press for X and Y and Z, they have this similar mentality where most likely if everything gets wiped out because of our fault, because of their fault, because of who knows, their users are probably made whole. But, they earn less because of it. That's just risk reward.
No, I find it very exciting. I think, what you guys are doing, just as a brief summary, I think you're already we're told about 1 year, 1.5 year ahead of, in terms of certain DeFi products that you deliver, ahead of even Cosmos, who by the way, I highly respect them, what they're doing, but some of your products are I would say faster, as per what I understood from this interview. You build, you build really fast. You care about the security. So I'm happy to see that you've been audited and people can literally, verify it for themselves. You have 250,000 users, and on chain, 50,000 different active DeFi positions, and generally a lot of integrations, including, as you mentioned, Huobi, BitMax, Binance. And the fact that I like that you not only accept the projects that are mostly on Cosmos SDK, but you're looking further, down the line, how can you develop the products on Ethereum? How can you develop the products, obviously the core, interact with more Bitcoin products. And I think it's very forward thinking what you guys are doing, and maybe just for the sake of making it sure this interview short and sweet, we might have a second one to see of your great projects. Maybe you can just summarize one of the key things that people should look into from all your amazing developments in the roadmap.
Yeah. Well, just to comment briefly on what you said there, I just, it is, we do ship about, as a base layer, I don't think anybody ships every 4 months. Right. Mm-hmm. We're probably one of the quickest there. And in terms of the exploration, I think that's still a product of, we're fortunate in the sense that we have had some success and other projects have had success, but we're very much we're taking a long view on the industry and realizing that we're still really early days. This as an industry, we're a startup and we operate very much like that, right? Today, what's working today might not be working in a year. And I think the winners in the long run in these spaces are the teams that can build a culture and communities that can build a culture that's adaptive, right? So we're doing what we're doing today, but we look on Ethereum, we look on Binance Smart Chain, we keep close to these things, and we challenge, our own ethos, right? You got to go where the users are and where the money is. And so that for us, it's this kind of constantly iterative process. And we've tried to build our software stack and our team and our community with that ethos of being able to iterate and adapt. And I think that, but again, at its core, the fundamental thing that drives our decision-making is safety. It's safety of users' funds. How can we make sure that we're creating the experience that is safe for our users, right? We could, yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish.
Well, I was just going to say, so if I was going to tell people one thing to go and check out, I'm really excited about, it's not right now, but I'm really excited about some of these upcoming integrations that are going to happen with Wabi, and I kind of can't just yet talk about the other ones. That's a really great way to, gain access to these yields, but do it within an environment that's comfortable to you. If you want to start digging in now and take advantage of stuff, I'd start at kava.io. There's tutorials out there to move your Bitcoin in. You don't have to start with a lot. Start with a little bit, see if you like it. And we have a good community. You can go and ask questions and kind of build up from there.
One last thing I want to clarify. There was another question, asked me so what, when can I stake USDC and use Kava? So I'm sure you get this question a lot. So
Yeah, and again, I love our users, right? And I want to make them happy. You can see that we are actively evaluating USDC.
Yeah.
Yes, we are working on it. Basically, the USDC integration takes some time, and it turns out a ton of money. So we're working on it. I would love to see both USDC and USDT in there. USDT is honestly probably a bit farther away. USDC is looking closer. I would say if we write the check and we get it going, we could be looking at Q2 for like a native USDC. Basically, like I love native integrations, right? USDC on Kava is no different than USDC on Solana or on Ethereum, right? Mm-hmm. You put your money into that facility and you can deposit it easily onto Kava. I love frictionless onboarding. And so there's a premium to do it. We're willing to pay it. And so, yeah, hopefully Q2, we'll see. Don't quote me on it, but that's looking like that.
So, and for now, just to clarify, that, somebody who has, a position, let's say, whatever it may be, 1,000, 10,000 USDC. So they would need to go, let's say, to Binance to swap it to the USDX, right?
So the Circle product right now, if you've seen, if you're onboarded with the Circle product right now, you can seamlessly swap your Ethereum USDC for, I think Solana's on there right now, and there's another one. So our goal would be to have Kava on there. So you just swap your, through that facility, you can swap it. But then also, yeah, and this is, so I can just chat about this for a sec. So like, there's kind of, you need to kind of do both, because this is just sort of like what it is to be not Ethereum, right? Just kind of giving you a picture of that. So you need to do two things to get new assets on. You have to have that asset supported. So USDC has to say like, yep, we'll do it. But then that's not enough. You need to get onboarding. And the best onboarding that we've seen today is from exchanges, right? The ability to deposit and withdraw Kava USDC to Huobi and Coinbase and Binance. That's where the users are doing it. So I have seen a couple of projects who have, integrations with USDT and to an extent USDC, but the onboarding rails aren't there. It's like, well, great, but how are you going to get it on there, right? So already we're talking to exchanges to be like, can we get your guys' assets on first? Wink, wink. And then when USDC comes around, can you pretty please with sugar on top, put that into Kava? But it's important, in my opinion, you need both. USDC does offer a way to do it on Circle, but like how many people are on Circle versus Binance or Coinbase?
Exactly. So essentially, again, one of the easiest way to go to Binance, swap it to like Kava, and then
so the ideal integration here would be it's no different than Kava. So you got your USDC on you got your whatever Bitcoin, you trade it for some USDC on Binance. When you go to withdraw in the withdraw screen, you can do ERC20 or Kava, and you just withdraw it to a Kava address. It's in your balances on Kava, kind of just like Ethereum. You have multiple coins on Kava. You got your USDC. You do your yield generation event, and then you deposit it back to Binance, trade it for your Bitcoin.
Perfect. Got it. I mean, I think we can stop sharing the screen, and for someone
okay.
on a podcast, please do check the YouTube version of it, because there's a lot of exciting things Scott shared here. Then, I mean, just to also end up, our interview with some positive, and I would say more philosophical notes, which I love. Like the name of the show is Holistic Investments, and that means a lot to me. So I will ask you more of a human being, not techie question. What is the meaning of life to you? What is the meaning of this project to you? Generally, considering that it's a decentralized, it has a lot of innovative and very forward-thinking, ideas. So, what's the meaning of this all to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about things like whatever, holistically or whatever, I mean, my kind of view as an entrepreneur is this progression of a person from, younger, tend to be self-absorbed, focused on themselves, out towards an empathetic person, right? And the reason that I like to be an entrepreneur and build products is because you can be empathetic, but at a commercial scale, right? You can understand what your users want, and you can work to satisfy that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been, for me, in my personal evolution, right? Like I've noticed that I've gotten a lot more success when I think less about me and I start thinking more, about my users. So when we look at like, well, who are the users of this particular software? What's the reason that they're using it? Always asking that question, this kind of empathetic question of like, how can I benefit them? I think that the biggest, when I get an actual sense of our users, I think that the thing that probably the thing that comes through probably the most is these guys, these groups of people, like we don't get to ask them like, where are you from, what are your socioeconomic situations. But I think these are people who I still believe we're still like in the early phases of this cycle. These are people who are just interested in new things, right? Like they want a different way to build wealth and grow wealth and express themselves financially. And so we try and allow them to do that, but in a responsible way, right? Like, yes, 60% APY is very large. I think partially part of that's because Kava's been doing well recently. Right, but we're not trying to like draw them in with tricks and have them roll dice to earn even more, right? We want to treat them with respect, and we want to say that, and the main thing that we want to push through is what you're engaged in right now. The financial operations that you're engaged in now is no different than what's happening over here, right? We're trying to build that out for people and make them feel as though this is a real financial platform that you're interacting with, not some game.
So instead of dabbing you as a collateral dab tool for everything, or a synthetic yield farming platform, or any other of these big words, I would just say that what Kava is empathy on steroids. Commercial.
But I really think that, and this is kind of backing out of crypto even, like things I've noticed in my life, things just come to you more when you focus less on yourself and more on other people. There's no way. Look at the very large companies like Amazon. Like you can't get there by just always thinking about what you want. Like, oh, I just wish the world would happen. I mean, if you find users and you please users and you give them what they want, they will lift you, as high as you like. And so that's something that I try and do, and that's something that we instill in our company culture and our community culture as well.
100%. I couldn't agree more, and I love your vision. I've loved this philosophy. Maybe something you can advise people to read, or to maybe some famous podcast that you listen yourself and you love to share with the community.
Yeah, like a famous something that I thought was pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
Actually what I like is, have you ever seen this, How I Built This podcast, by Guy Ross? So
I've heard about it, but I didn't have time to.
Yeah. So, that's cool. So it's just this podcast by this guy where he kind of just sits down and interviews, the leaders of companies like Dyson and JetBlue and whatever. And what I love about sort of business is, when you're young, you think of business as those buildings behind you, right? You're like, oh, it's this big machine thing. But when you dig into it, it's people all the way down. It's people all the way down. So what I really like about that podcast is you have these gigantic brands and products, but you just get to hear the person on a human level. You just and it's kind of similar, right? It's just I'm a person. I tried to do this thing, I worked really hard, and here's how I think about it. So it's this really nice insight into what's actually kind of what one component of went on behind these companies that have been successful.
Got it. It's amazing. I will check it out, and put the links as well. Listen, I'm sure we can talk for hours and hours. It's been an exciting journey, Scott. And I'm really pleased to learn with your ambitious, plans, and I love the fact that you deliver. I even more, I love the fact that you actually client oriented. That's very important. The combination of the being client oriented and being secure and compliant and making sure that you constantly iterate. I think that's the success formula. So I wish you more development, a faster growth. And again, listen, right now you have more than 250 million in total assets, value in your platform. And I'm sure probably by the end of the year, I hate to be a prophet here, but I wish you will quadruple it easily.
We're going for it. We're definitely going for it.
And I'm sure it's going to be the case. So with your approach and with your philosophy, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Scott. And I hope we'll do it again.
Yep. Thanks, Constantine.